everybody! Hello. This is a bit dangerous, but it'll be okay. Today I want to do the mid-year book freakout tag. And I realized that it is hardly the middle of the year anymore. It's like almost December at this point. But I wanted to answer these questions, and who's gonna stop me? So that's what I'm gonna be doing today. I'm really excited. I already got like the books I want to talk about, and I'm thinking that because some of the questions in the mid-year freakout tag are not that applicable anymore, so I'm probably going to take some of the questions of the end of year book tag and kind of make a hybrid. Just sit back, relax, and I will be talking through some of these questions now. So for the book, like mid-year book freakout tag, I'm actually not too sure who created this tag. If I can find out, I will link them down below. I know that the end of year book tag was created by Ariel Bisset, so credits to her for creating this. Yeah, so I got my questions right here and I will just get into it. So the first question is, what is the best book you've read so far? And I actually read a lot of really good books this year, so it's hard for me to like say this was my favorite one. But yeah, I'm just gonna mention like 3 of the ones I like really enjoyed or left an impact. The first one being The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. And this was just, I just read it at the right time when I most needed it. It was such a transformative story and just gave me a bookish hug at the time. And yeah, I think for that I will always be very grateful because yeah, I needed this book when it came into my life. So one of my favorites this year. The other one I have here is Acts of Service by Lillian Fishman. This is more of like a character study, a study of interhuman relationships, explores sex and sexuality. And I thought this had beautiful writing, and just the themes that were discussed in this book I thought were super interesting and important. So yeah, definitely another favorite. And then the last one I want to mention is 28 Questions by Indiana Schneider. And I don't have that book right now because I lent it out to my sister. Yeah, but that was also definitely a favorite. It's also kind of a study of relationships, following 2 girls who started as friends and then slowly started falling for each other. And yeah, it again had beautiful writing. Also really enjoyed my time with that one. So that was also definitely a favorite of this year. The second question is, what is the best sequel you've read so far in 2022? And I actually only read 1 sequel this year. Actually, like I don't read that many series in general, but yeah, that one is A Gathering of Shadows, and that is the second book in the Shades of Magic, I think is the series by V.E. Schwab. And it is the best sequel because I really enjoyed it. I fell in love with this series. I read the first one also this year. And yeah, I'll also mention this book again for other questions later on. But yeah, I just really enjoyed my time with this, and it just really keeps you hooked. So even though this is quite a thick book, over 500 pages, I kind of just flew through it. So definitely a really good sequel, I would say. And I'm currently also reading the 3rd book in the series, so great one. The third question is, what is a new release that came out this year that I still want to read but haven't? And I don't really keep up with new releases that much, but one that definitely like I came across is What We Want by Charlotte Fox Weber. And I believe this is no, it's not a memoir, but it's definitely a nonfiction, and it follows the author, who I believe is a therapist, and she is kind of having these different example clients kind of, and talking through the 12 desires that humans have, not only like sexually but also just other desires. I don't really know too much about it, but it definitely sounds like something that I would enjoy, so I definitely want to read that at some point. I don't think I'll get to it this year because it's only like a month and a half left in this year, but that's something I will read at one point, I believe. Okay, the 4th question is, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? And yeah, the year is almost over, and I also don't really have any anticipated releases for the rest of the year and didn't really have one to begin with. So we're just gonna skip this question. The fifth question is, what was your biggest disappointment this year? And for me, that was Luster by Raven Leilani. And yeah, I just kind of hoped I would enjoy this book more, and this was actually one of the very few books this year that I like actively disliked. And I read it all the way through, even though I think I could have DNF'd it, but I don't know, I just kind of wanted to finish it and kind of see where the story goes. I don't know, it was just not my type of humor. Like, it's said to be like darkly humorous, but it just did not resonate with me. I thought the main character was very unlikable, and I think that was probably the point, but for me that kind of made the reading experience very hard. And also the way that the relationship dynamics were explored in this book, I just wish would have been done in another way. Basically, if you don't know what this is about, it's about a black girl who dates like a very much older dude who's married, and to her knowledge the wife is knows that like they're hooking up, and that's agreed to by then, like they have an open marriage or something, and then she ends up moving in with them. I guess what I was hoping for was like a book about polyamory. I'm still looking for a novel that does polyamory in the right way. So far haven't found it yet, but yeah, the way this was explored was just not my thing. I was just kind of at the end hoping for the main character to hook up with the wife, honestly. The one thing I enjoyed about this book was the dynamic between our main character and the daughter of the married couple, because the daughter is adopted and she's also black, so our main character kind of bonds with the daughter, and that was like the nicest part about this book, but the rest of it just wasn't for me. So that was kind of disappointing because I was hoping to enjoy it. The next question is, what was your biggest surprise this year? And for this one I have two books. I want to start with Educated by Tara Westover, and I say this was a surprise for me because I was surprised how obsessed I was with it, because it really kept me like wanting to read. Like, I was reading when I was supposed to be doing like uni work, and I would just be there like, I cannot stop, because this book, I don't know what it was about it, but something about this just kept me just very hooked and wanting to know how the story went on. This is a memoir about Tara Westover's life, how she grew up with like very religious and like survivalist parents, and she grew up without like a formal education, and this kind of follows her life, how she like what happened during her childhood, how she kind of escaped from there and like went on to have a university education. Like I said, this was a surprise because I did not expect to be so obsessed with it, but this was like such a compelling read. Highly recommend. And then the second book that was just very surprising to me is One to Watch by Kate Stayman London. And this was surprising because, again, I just did not expect to love it as much as I did. But I think for this one also, the timing was very crucial because I read it at a time when I was kind of coming out of a depressive episode, and the pure joy this book gave me was just the best. I was like having just the best time reading this and being able to experience such just pure joy. I don't know, it was amazing. I really enjoyed it, and I think this was a good example for how timing of reading a book can really impact your reading experience, because I can imagine that if I read this at a different time I wouldn't have loved it as much. But yeah, again, very surprising to me how much I enjoyed this. The next question that we have is a new favorite author, and again I have two picks for this one, and I don't know if I would say like these are like favorite authors now, but these are two authors whom I will definitely pick up whatever they put out next. And yeah, the first one is Lillian Fishman from Acts of Service, which I just mentioned, and I just loved her writing. You can see the tabs, like I underlined so much in here because I just thought her writing was really beautiful, and I just want to see what she comes out with next. So that's definitely one. And then the other one is Indiana Schneider from 28 Questions, which I also earlier mentioned. Again, I just really enjoyed her writing and the way she explored relationships. So if she is to put out another book, hopefully I will definitely pick it up. Okay, so question 8 and 9 are about like a newest fictional crush. And then the next question after that is like a new favorite character. So I'm just kind of combining those questions because I don't really have fictional crushes, but this is one that like got very close. I'm again repeating myself with this answer because I'm talking about the Shades of Magic series again. And Delilah Bard in this, yeah, like she's definitely a crush of mine. Like I just loved reading about her character. She is so like such a badass, and I don't know, there's so much subtle sexual tension or just general tension between characters in this series, and I just enjoy that a lot because like I would hardly say that there's like romance in this. There's just this kind of underlying tension between characters, and that is so compelling. Yeah, so Delilah Bard in this, definitely a crush. Also kind of Alucard, is that how you say it? Alucard Emery. We only meet him in the second book of the series, but I also love him. And again, like the tension between those two characters, amazing. Okay, the next question is about a book that made you cry. And honestly, I don't know, I felt like I cried in a lot of books this year. Like not even just because it was sad, but also when things like made me emotional, just kind of because it was so heartwarming. One book I want to mention is Migrations by Charlotte McConaughey or something like this. I want to look this up. Okay, I just looked it up. It's Charlotte McConaughey. I don't know how to say this, I'm sorry. But that book made me cry for sure. This is a very intense book about kind of where it's set a bit in the future, and we're in a world where just climate change has like started to kill off most of the animals, and just the world has changed. So a very intense, very dark book. I would definitely not recommend this to everyone, but it was expertly done. The writing, beautiful. But yeah, intense, definitely made me cry at more than one point in it. Yeah, so that one. On a bit of a lighter note, I also cried when I read A Psalm for the Wild-Built by Becky Chambers. And for this one, it was more kind of like a little like tear of joy sliding down my my cheek, because this was just so heartwarming and just made me very happy and made me smile. So yeah, that was a kind of a joyful crying session. The next question is about a book that made you happy, and for this one I just again have to mention One to Watch, just because yeah, it had like a book hasn't made me this happy in a long time. So yeah, that was a great reading experience. The next question I really like because it's yeah, it's about what is like the most beautiful book you've bought or received this year, and I have several ones for this, starting with You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty, and this is just I don't know, so pretty. Gorgeous. I haven't read this yet, but yeah, I'll get to it eventually. I just have a massive pile of books here now. The next one I want to show is Hearts and Bones by, what's her name, Nima Mulvey. And again, just gorgeous. I mean, and this is a collection of short stories about, I don't really know, honestly. I also haven't read this yet. It says Hearts and Bones is a book about relationships. It explores what love does to us and how we survive it. Anything, like just give me those two sentences and I will be reading it. This is absolutely my jam. Yeah, I haven't read a short story collection ever, I think, so I'm really excited to get to this one. And then the last book that I want to show you is Tender is the Night by Tender is the Night by F. Scott Fitzgerald. What a beautiful edition. My god. I also haven't read this yet, but honestly, I think I bought this only because it was so pretty and I want to read more classics, so this one. Okay, the next question in the mid-year book freakout tag is now about like what you still want to read, so I'm just going to skip that question and just substitute some of the end of your book tag questions. The first one of that being, are there any books you need to finish before the end of the year? And those would be the ones that I'm currently reading. Yeah, so the third book, as I mentioned, in the Shades of Magic series, And I know this is not the same edition as the second and first book. Incredibly frustrating, but here we are. I could not get the third book in this edition fast enough to read it, so here we are. But yeah, definitely want and need to finish this. And then the nonfiction that I'm reading right now is by Julia Shaw, and this is just as it says, The Hidden Culture, History and Science of Bisexuality. And like I said, it's a nonfiction, kind of just exploring all of these areas. Very interesting, and definitely want to finish it by the end of the year. I forgot to mention one more book for the books I need to finish by the end of the year, and that is 1,000 Mornings by Mary Oliver. And this is a poetry collection, so it's I should be able to get through this very fast, but I read about half of it literally 5 months ago or something, and I really want to finish this as well. The second question of the end of year book tag is, do you have an autumnal book to kind of transition into the end of the year? And for me, I recently read The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana, and this was a perfect book to kind of transition you into the winter time, because it takes place in the months of October, November, December. Really enjoyed this one. Also just very cozy, a good read for kind of the darker, cozier time of year. And then another book which I haven't read yet but still want to read is Beartown by Frederick Bachman. And I think for me this is more of a wintry book, just because it takes place in kind of a snowy small town where ice hockey is at the center of the story. So I think this is definitely something I want to read in the winter time. The third question of this section of the video is there a new release that you're still waiting for? And for this one, again, like I said earlier, I don't really have a lot of new releases that I look forward to, but I heard of this book called Good Girl by Anna Fitzpatrick, and this came out in Canada in May. I think it was published by an independent bookstore or something, and it has not come out yet in a paperback or any kind of physical copy in Europe yet. I believe it will only come out in January or February, so I have to wait until the next year. I could be reading it on ebook, but I think I do want to wait for the physical copy. And this book just kind of intrigued me. I think it explores a BDSM relationship, so definitely looking forward to that whenever it comes out here. The fourth question of the end of the year book tag is, what are 3 books that you still want to read before the end of the year? One of those is definitely Beartown, like I mentioned. I think this is a good wintry book. Then another book I came across literally yesterday when I was at the bookstore to buy the last book in the Shades of Magic series is a romance book with a bi main character, and that book is Kiss Her Once by Alison Cochran. I don't know how to say her name. And this book is by the same author as The Charm Offensive. I haven't read that book, but yeah, like I said, I came across Kiss Her Once for me yesterday, and it is a wintry, Christmassy romance book. And I don't know, I'm just really excited to read a festive book around the Christmas time. So I think that's one book I want to still buy and then read. And then for a third pick, I honestly don't know. I like to kind of go with the flow. I don't really make TBRs for myself, so we'll just see what happens. The fifth question, and we're coming to the end here, is there a book that could still shock you and become one of your favorites? And honestly, I don't really think so. I don't have any books right now where I'm anticipating a lot, so I don't really have an answer for this. I'm sorry. And then the last question is, have you made any reading plans yet for 2023? And for this, I would say my number one goal is to read a good chunk of the books that I own but haven't read yet. And I don't have too many books, I think, compared to what I see on YouTube. Other people's physical TBRs are 50 books long or something, or even longer. And I think for me, I have around 20 to 25 books that I haven't read yet that I own. So a goal of mine is to just kind of tackle those and try not to buy new books before I read them. My one rule is that if I'm gonna buy a new book, I have to read it right away. Like, that's the only way I'm allowed to buy books. Do I stick to that rule? I don't know. Hopefully I will next year, we'll see. Yeah, and then another goal for 2023 is to read a bit more classics, because this year a goal of mine was to read just one classic, because I haven't read one in a while. And I read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen and actually had a really good time with it. So I think next year I want to pick up more classics as well. Yeah, so that was the two book tags, kind of the hybrid version. I had such a fun time answering these questions, and yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you're having a great day, and yeah, happy day, happy reading, happy life. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in another video.